Dolphins fans, what's going on? Ben Morgan, Fins Up Network, back today with an NFL draft player profile for ball hawk cornerback Emmanuel Forbes out of Mississippi State. Now, there's going to be a lot of fans, a lot of Dolphins content creators out there that say, you know what? We're not really in the market for a cornerback anymore this offseason after making that big trade for Jalen Ramsey. But I tell you what, there are definitely some NFL draft prospect cornerbacks that I have got my eye on. It's a talented group. It's a relatively deep group. And there's a chance if we go best player available throughout the NFL draft, there's an argument that could be made that best player available, especially in rounds 2 and 3, very well could end up being a cornerback with how good and deep and talented this position is. So I'm definitely not going to be ignoring the position this offseason. So, like I said, today's focus is on Mississippi State's cornerback, Emmanuel Forbes. As always, we're going to talk about the player's strengths, weaknesses, and then most importantly, that fit with the Miami Dolphins if he was drafted by them. But as always, I want to hear from you. If you got thoughts on the cornerback position, if you got thoughts on Emmanuel Forbes, go ahead and drop them in the comments. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Emmanuel Forbes, though, because, like I said, talk about a guy that has a knack for not only just finding the ball, but coming down with it. 14 career interceptions. And keep in mind that this isn't your typical 4-year, 5-year collegiate career. He did all this in 3 seasons. 3 seasons at Mississippi State. He had 6 alone last year. Oh, and on top of that, he returned 6 of those interceptions for touchdowns, which, yeah, that's a big number. You want to know why that's a big number? That's tied for the most in FBS history. He is keeping some damn good company right there. But man, outside of just being a straight up ball hawk and turnover machine, he's super competitive, very combative at the catch point when he's attempting to try to break up passes. This is a nice thing too as well. Experience in both man and zone coverage. So very versatile depending on what type of defense that you want to play. And despite that smaller frame, because man, he shocked me. I'm sure I'm not the only one. When he weighed in at 166 pounds at the NFL Combine, like I said, I was shocked. But despite that size, he actually does really well when it comes to their being contact. Like if he's in a situation where he's in a rubber out, he fights through it well. He can stick to his guy very well. He doesn't really mind throwing his body into the mix when it comes to tackling and being active in the run game as well. So he's got a little bit more going for him than just your straight up ball hawk cornerback skills. The guy can do a little bit of everything. But with that, obviously, the smaller frame does come with disadvantages as well. I can't say outright that it's not a hindering factor. I mean, he'll get matched up against some bigger, more physical wide receivers at the next level. It's going to happen. So that size is something that eventually, yeah, he's going to have to face. Could obviously be some struggles that come along with that. He can get beat on a double move here and there, but being that aggressive ball hawk type of cornerback, that can leave you susceptible to allowing a big play here and there. So obviously there's that risk as well. He does tend to get a little bit grabby now and then. I believe he had 5 or 6 combination of holding pass interference calls last year alone there at Mississippi State. So he's going to want to clean that up a little bit at the next level as well. But if you're looking at his fit with the Dolphins, most people are going to view Forbes as a boundary cornerback. So in year 1 with the Dolphins, obviously he'd be a depth piece behind Ramsey, behind Howard. He's not going to be starting over either of those guys. Both of those guys are great. But if you're drafting him in the second round, likely where he's going to end up going, he'd end up having to be our pick at number 51. He'll be in a backup role in year 1. There's no disputing that. However, if you're in a backup role behind the likes of Jalen Ramsey and Xavien Howard, that is not a bad thing at all. If you're awarded that luxury of learning from those two, who have been 2 of the best to do it at the position for the last decade, imagine how ready he will actually be when it's finally his turn to take over. So no, I agree that cornerback isn't the need now that it was before we traded for Jalen Ramsey. But if Emmanuel Forbes is available at number 51, and depending how things kind of shake out in the draft before that, there's probably an argument made that he could be considered the best player available. And going back to Ramsey and Howard here for a second, there's something about cornerbacks, players at that position that's fairly hard to argue. It's that they don't always age well. When you have a new crop of wide receivers coming into the draft every single year that are running 4.3s and 4.4s, that's a tall task for these cornerbacks that are aging a little bit, that are coming out of the prime of their career. So keep in mind, Xavien Howard, he'll be 30 in July. Jalen Ramsey is going to turn 29 in October. So despite having them now, and like I said, I have no doubt whatsoever that they will be good, if not borderline great this year, I don't think we should necessarily outright ignore the position in the draft if the right guy is available. So that's my take on Emmanuel Forbes. Some strengths, some weaknesses, some potential fit with the Dolphins. But like I said, go ahead and drop your thoughts on the position in the draft, on Emmanuel Forbes in the comments. Check it out. Do there. Give that video a like if you do like what you're hearing today. Also, I just recently did a mock draft as well. It was my second one of the offseason. It'll be linked in the description. It'll pop up on your screen probably in a couple of seconds here if it isn't already. Go ahead and check that out as well. One of my favorite players in the draft fell to the Dolphins at pick number 51. I will be continuing. Every day Dolphins news is coming out, I will be dropping a video. And if there's days where there's not major Dolphins news, I will continue to just be pumping through these NFL draft player profiles. So get subscribed if you are not already. Like I said, we're going to be having a bunch of these coming out leading up to the NFL draft. But that's my time. That's what I got for Forbes. And until next time, Dolphins fans, fins up.